Now to what happened at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, where Boss Mustapha officially handed over affairs of that office to the newly appointed Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, having served for 5.5 years in the Buhari administration. You know, we spoke earlier on this program with the SGF prior to the inauguration. He chaired the presidential task, the Presidential Transition Council, and he spoke about how eventful the past 5 years has been for him, particularly leading the presidential task force during the Buhari administration effort at tackling COVID-19 in Nigeria. So it must really be an eventful and emotional moment for him, having to hand over to someone else to take over the reins of the activities at that office. Our correspondent Hellen Osamede Akins witnessed that event earlier today. Hellen, you covered the handover at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, where Boss Mustapha officially handed over to George Akume. Talk to us about what really was handed over to the new SGF.
And if I mean, today at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, it was very, very eventful. It was more like a two-in-one event, because today the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, officially received documents from the former SGF, which is Boss Mustapha. He handed over some documents which he expects this new SGF, George Akume, to really work with. And then some of these documents are the reports from Steve Aronsaye's committee that was set up on bundling of government agencies. You could recall that during the period of Steve Aronsaye's committee, it was said that government agencies and organizations, most of them are duplicating functions, and then there was need for a review. And Aronsaye's report then was that these agencies can be meshed together where they have lesser hand, and it will also help government to save costs. And those reports, since then, nothing was actually done concerning reviewing the reports. But Boss Mustapha's time in office, he set up another committee to review this report, and then the committee submitted the report, that's the white paper. And nothing has actually been done before President Muhammadu Buhari left office. He is also handing over this document to the new Secretary to the Government of the Federation to see to it, to look into it, and see if the report is what the government can actually implement. Recall that the new Secretary to the Government of this Federation has the responsibility to advise the President and the Vice President on policies of government. So that's why this document was handed over to him to see what can be done. Looking at today, where we are complaining about rise in expenses, government is spending so much, especially in payment of salary, capital, and all that. If this report is actually reviewed like the SGF has advised, the government might have opportunity to save costs and spend money on other activities which can benefit the government. Another report that was also submitted was the report of the Presidential Task Force Committee. Remember 2020, when Nigeria had to deal with the outbreak of COVID-19? It was like an emergency for the government. The committee was set up, a lot of things was done, but thanks be to God, Nigeria was able to skate through with, even if there was record of deaths, but it wasn't as compared to other countries. In order to forestall a situation where the country will not just rush into a situation of an emergency like it was in 2020, the committee, after carrying out their responsibility, that's the Presidential Task Force Committee, also came up with a report to present to the government to be able to know what to do in terms of an emergency. That aside, the issue of Nigerian diplomatic foreign missions, the report was also submitted to this new Secretary to the Government of the Federation. And the report, according to the SGF, we guide this present administration on what to do concerning Nigerian foreign mission. You discover that most countries, Nigerian government have so many ambassadors in different countries where they are being represented. This report will also guide the government on what to do, either to cut down on it or in terms of what they spend. The report also will help the government on what to do in that respect. And there are also a lot of reports which was also submitted. The report of this transition committee. Remember, the transition committee was set up by the federal government to ensure a seamless transition of power from President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, to this present administration. And this report also was submitted on the committee that was set up. The SGF was the chairman of the committee, with other heads of agencies and heads of security agencies were members of this committee. It's a normal thing for them to submit a report on how the transition went and some of their requirements. I recall the secretary, the former secretary to the government of the Federation.
SGF himself, headed that particular transition council. So it's a lot of documents handed over to the new SGF, and it's time now, and the clock, as they say, is ticking, and we'll see how much huge impact he's bringing into the new administration. Hellen, Osamede, Akins live for us in Abuja.